Hey everyone, Nike here. I wanted to start a new video series called A World Without, where I discuss the possible impact of removing, or at least nerfing to oblivion, a whole class would have on the PvE raid meta. So the first episode in this series is the Mesmer/Chronomancer. Let's start by covering what the Mesmer does in the current raid meta. At the basic level, the Chrono generates the quickness boon for his group with 100% uptime. Additionally, through the use of Wells and Phantasmal Avengers, he's able to maintain alacrity on his party members 100% of the time. As such, the Chrono exists to be a massive DPS multiplier for the party. Some professions do benefit more from the Chrono than others. However, it is safe to say that on average, you can expect your personal DPS to be about 50% higher with a Chronomancer in your party to boost you. Many groups are also opting to have the Chronomancer play the tank role. Since the Chronomancer's personal DPS is so low even in full Berserker gear, sacrificing a bit of that Berserker gear for toughness gear to hold aggro means you end up giving up very little to do so. Additionally, it frees up whatever your tank was beforehand to turn into a pure DPS character, so overall your party benefits greatly from that switch and role compression. With that covered, what would be the immediate results of the Chronomancer being deleted or nerfed into oblivion in the meta? First result is that without alacrity, the expected DPS between professions changes. Right now, alacrity is supercharging Tempest builds, but does very little for Revenant. Most people have accepted that Tempests are higher DPS than Revenant. Remove alacrity from the equation, however, and the Tempest and Revenant are much closer in DPS. This changes party composition somewhat, since if you get the same DPS out of one profession as you do another, but one is tanky and the other is glassy, and the glassy one offers no special utility benefit, why would anyone take the really glassy one unless there was some mechanical advantage? So relatively speaking, the Revenant would become slightly favored compared to Tempest for pure DPS. On the other hand, quickness affects everyone. Losing party quickness will drastically lower total team DPS and result in boss and rage timers becoming a factor. Certain strategies like No Glide Gorseval would become impossible since the DPS requirement would be simply too high. It would also mean that Revenants would switch back to using Shiro as their legend swap, which would indirectly hurt team boon duration since you cannot use a Rev quickness and maintain Fasces of Nature at the same time. This could result in classes that currently count on the boon duration like Warrior to have to use Strength runes as opposed to Scholar, further lowering their DPS. However, without the Mesmer's quickness, the benefit of the 50% boon duration is much less, and Revs may not use it at all. From a tanking perspective, who would replace the Chrono tank if Mesmer was nerfed into oblivion? It would be entirely probable that you would want the same type of role compression so that you're getting 2 for 1. In this case, a Phalanx tank warrior build could be developed with some amount of boon duration food and strength runes, perhaps commander's gear in place of one of those or the other. This would replace a low to middle DPS character, the PS warrior, with a high DPS character, Tempest, Rev, Condi warrior, without losing might stacking capabilities. This would be the same sort of role compression we get now with the Chrono tank. Instead of compressing the Chronomancer and the tank, we'd be compressing the Phalanx warrior and the tank into one. So in conclusion, without the Chronomancer, we would see a reshifting of the DPS rankings that would hurt the classes who benefit more than others from alacrity, such as Tempest and Warrior, and benefit the ones who do their best DPS from auto attacks, like the Revenant and Druid. We would see a massive total team DPS reduction with the loss of quickness that would result in the enraged timers becoming a much more legitimate concern, as well as eliminating entirely certain strategies that only function with the current levels of high DPS that we experience. Lastly, it would create a void for teams that use the Chronomancer for tanking, which could be filled with some other compressed role like Druid heal tank or a Phalanx warrior tank. Overall, it would have a huge effect on the PvE meta, which is indicative of the current power level and importance we see in the Chronomancer today. Alright guys, that is it. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share them below. Thanks again for watching, and stay tuned. I will have the next episode in this series up in a couple days. Again, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.